I'm just going to introduce everybody who's on our panel, all of our RVCC grads, and tell you a little bit about them. And then Michelle has some guided questions and conversation starters. But again, please use the raise hand feature and use the chat function so that you can ask questions that are meaningful to you. Okay, so I'm just reading here. I didn't memorize everybody's bio, just so you know. So I'm going to start with Chad Coven. So Chad is an RVCC graduate, class of 2017. He was a member of the RVCC Honors College, and he graduated and got his associate's degree in math and in computer science. He transferred to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and he graduated with a bachelor's degree in applied math. He then went on and is currently earning his master's degree in analytics at North Carolina State University. Welcome, Chad. And we'll learn more about each of our graduates as we go along. Jamal. So Jamal Kasim. Jamal is a graduate of RVCC with an associate's degree in liberal arts communications. He transferred to Rutgers, New Brunswick and graduated with a BA in communications and human resources management. He then went on to graduate from Rutgers with his master's in labor and employment relations. And Jamal actually works here. If you have gone to enrollment services, you might have run into his friendly face. Next, we have Jacinda. Jacinda Nembhard was a graduate of RVCC in 2020 with her Associate of Arts in Communications. She went on to get her bachelor's degree in communications and I believe is graduating this year. Am I correct, Jacinda?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a graduation coming up in May. So that is Jacinda. We'll hear more from Jacinda as well. Welcome. Next, we have David Gibbs. So David is a graduate of RVCC. He graduated in, I'm missing here. When did you graduate, David? I don't think I have that on here.
2017.
In 2017, okay. And that was in communications. He graduated from Pace University with a bachelor's of arts degree in marketing and communications. David has worked for Apple in sales and marketing, and we will hear more from David as well. Okay, next we have Sean Wallace. Sean graduated from RVCC with a degree in music. He went on to transfer to the Berklee College of Music, where he earned his bachelor's in music, contemporary writing, and production. And last but not least is Victoria. Victoria is a graduate of RVCC in environmental engineering. She transferred on to Rutgers, New Brunswick, and she is currently working as a water engineer, water quality engineer. Sorry, I couldn't read that. And finally, we have Avita. Avita earned her Associate of Arts in Liberal Arts Social Sciences back in 2015. I think I need my glasses. And she transferred to Rutgers, New Brunswick and earned her bachelor's in psychology, then went on to the Cornell University Law School, where she graduated in 2020. And we will hear more about Avita's journey as well. So thank you everybody so much. Michelle, let's get started.
All right, thank you. So how did you get interested in your major or your particular field?
I guess I'll start. Hi, everybody. My name is Jamal. How did I get started? I guess I'm originally from Somerville. So when I came to RV in 2009, I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do. I originally wanted to be like Stephen A. Smith. I don't know if you guys watch like First Take and stuff, but I wanted to be like a sports like broadcaster, communications. So that's why I went to communications route. But as you know, that's a very difficult field to be like an ESPN writer and to get on the ESPN. And when I transferred to Rutgers, it was either I was going to do journalism or I could stick with the communication side of things. My advisor at the time, my EOF advisor at Rutgers, was like, if you stick with communications, that'll be a quicker route to get your bachelor's. So I'm all about, saving money, and I just want to get my degree and go into the workforce. And I was always like working jobs where I was like helping people. Like I've held a job since I was 14. My first job was as a waiter at a nursing home. So I always like did things with like working with people, helping people. And while I was at Rutgers, I had started working for a nonprofit called Middle Earth, um, which is located right in Bridgewater, New Jersey. So helping underrepresented young men and women with just after school program, career services, and things like that. And once that started, I found that love of just wanting to give back and like help people, especially my people, Black people. So I did keep in touch with Danya Collins, who was my EOF advisor who at the time, who currently still works there. And he told me that there may be an opportunity at RVCC. And this was another opportunity for, me to share my story with students that look like me and, help them with their future and achieve their goals. So that's why I came back to RVCC. And then, I'm currently still here now. But all in all, it's just about just giving back and trying to help, students achieve their dreams and goals.
Thank you, Jamal.
No problem.
Anybody else want to answer the question? Victoria,
I'll go next. So hi, my name is Evita Sylvester, and as Carrie said, I'm a recent law graduate from Cornell Law School. I graduated in 2020, so I am now a lawyer, and my journey to the law is not, I wouldn't say it's traditional by any means. I'm not one of those people who always wanted to be a lawyer. I was kind of like a last minute decision. So I was at Rutgers, so I majored in social science when I was at RVCC. And then when I went on to major in psychology at Rutgers, so I was interested in helping people. I knew I wanted to make a difference, and I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor. I knew I wasn't like interested in math or science or anything like that. So I knew that the social sciences would be the better fit for me. I knew that I wanted to work with people. I wanted to help people. I was interested in studying like human behavior and understanding why it is that people do the things that they do. And I was also interested in helping people with disabilities. So I was going on the psychology track, and my goal at the time when I was at Rutgers was to do a graduate program in psychology. And I thought that I wanted to be a counselor for people with disabilities. But then along the way, I realized that although I was like, psychology was interesting to me, I wasn't necessarily as passionate enough about it to pursue a whole graduate program in it. But I knew that I wanted to make an impact. So I was talking with family members, and we have a family friend that is a lawyer, just talking to different people about the law, and they recommended the law as another alternative. And as I did more research, I felt that the law would be a better way for me to make more of an impact. And I currently work at Freddie Mac, which is a mortgage finance company. So it's not the most traditional path, as I'll get into later, but I have found ways to do my disability advocacy work throughout the company, and the company does a lot when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And yes, I've been able to just like carve my own path, and even throughout my law school journey, that hasn't been traditional either. So I guess that's a lesson for you guys. Like, don't feel like you have to have everything figured out. Life is a journey, and I'm still figuring things out. So yeah, that's how I got into the law. So.
thank you for sharing, Evita. So this will lead into the next question that I have. Listening to you talk about how it wasn't a straight journey for you to be able to say that this is what you wanted to do. So it sounds like you made some changes. So my question for the panelists is, did you change your major or your career plans along the way when you started out at RV?
Yes, I came to RVCC as a business, do business. I was a business major, and I took a couple of classes and realized this just isn't for me, because the idea was to start my own business. And then I thought, do I really need a business degree to start my own business? No, not really. So then I
found my way to Carrie's office, and she's been a wonderful help. So we went through a couple of majors, and then she asked me questions based on things that I like, what I want to do, and then we came across communications, which I love that major. I think everybody should be a communications major because it's very broad, so you could do anything with it, whether it's you wanting to start your own business or work in any industry such as publishing, journalism, advertising, you name it. So right now I find myself wanting to work more with different social media outlets and do marketing, help different brands promote themselves and, you know, stay within good standing with their current consumers and gain new ones. So that's where I'm at right now.
I can go next. Hi. So my path towards environmental engineering also was a bit all over the place. I initially started off with general math and science because I didn't know that I wanted to pursue something in the sciences, but I was intimidated by committing to engineering. But it took my immigrant dad kind of challenging me and pushing me towards a route that I didn't initially think I was suited for, out of just fear, to be honest. But in being able to finally commit to engineering, and specifically environmental engineering, I found that it was a pretty broad major. And I had a lot of different fields that I could consider, including like solid waste management, remediation, air pollution, and water engineering. And I think water is the thing that really stuck for me. I'm originally from Kenya, and in just having had that lived experience between here and there and seeing their water infrastructure, I think part of my career and part of my journey is being able to help out with developing their infrastructure, specifically their water infrastructure in some sustainable way. But yeah, along the way, I changed my major from environmental science to environmental engineering to environmental science. Like I just kept on going back and forth. For me personally, what was scary about engineering, I think in being a Black woman in such a male-dominated field, that in itself felt very intimidating. But I found that within my specific field of engineering, environmental, maybe it's the nurturing aspect of women, I don't know, but I found a good ratio of male and female. But I still haven't, within my employment, I haven't always found the most diversity. But I've been able to advocate for myself and gain a bit more confidence within my field. And I think that's something everyone should be able to, should just try to pick up on within their careers, within their respective careers. But it's not as scary as I initially had thought it would be when I was a freshman at RV. And I'm glad that I committed to it because I'm making it my own and I'm bringing in my own experiences and making the best out of it.
Does anybody else want to share? So what's steps? Go ahead.
Yeah, I can talk on that really fast. So for me, I never ended up actually switching majors at RV. There's definitely been times where I wasn't sure whether that's what I wanted to do, doing math and computer science. I know Jamal talked about, trying to save money and whatnot. Originally, why I went into computer science was because I wanted to make money. And I knew that programming would enable me to do that. But, at the end of the day, I realized that it was pretty tough and it wasn't necessarily for me. But there were some skills that I liked from it. And that's why I decided to finish the math and computer science route at RV. And now I'm in data, which kind of takes elements from computer science, but kind of gives more of an applicable type of resource to it. So you can actually get, insights that can physically help people, unlike, just doing math, where sometimes you're only working on, physics-based problems, where I really want to be able to work on data that can physically help people in their real life. So that's kind of the route that I took. Math and data, they sound like the same thing, but they're very two different complete worlds. And Vicky kind of touched on just how they're not the most diverse spaces. So I was in a lot of these classes with like being the only Black person most of the time. And there's definitely imposter syndrome that happens, but I think finding those people that fit your identity as well, that are in the same spaces as you, is really important. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So what steps did you take or what type of advice did you get in order to help you make your decisions when you decided to change your career paths? Victoria? I think, Victoria, you kind of touched upon who was a person who.
Yeah, I guess the best advice I received, or my best mentor along the way was my father, but also Greg DeSantis, who was the Honors College advisor. It's definitely good to have multiple mentors because where my dad fell short in his limitations, not really understanding the American academic system, Greg and other mentors I had along the way definitely helped with that. But yeah, Greg was very great and just having the gentle guidance and kind of just not really making the decision for me. I don't think you should rely on anyone to make any decisions for you, but it's definitely good to listen in from different perspectives and apply your own personal experiences and knowing your own strengths and your own weaknesses. And yeah, I definitely did go to Greg a lot and I changed my major back and forward, but it definitely took me having the confidence in myself to just stick to what I initially knew was right for me, but was just a bit intimidated by. Yeah, I don't know if that answers it.
So who did any of you have mentors leading into from what Victoria just said? Did you have mentors along the way to help you as you made your transition from Raritan to your schools or into your career? Do you currently have mentors that you go to for guidance to help you? Sean?
I guess I can take this one really quickly. So I would say like in the legal field, mentors are really important, especially for me, because I'm the first lawyer in my family. So I didn't really have any guidance. So I had to seek out knowledge from the very few people that I had in my life. We have one family friend that's a lawyer. And then I also spoke to someone that was currently in law school when I was deciding on whether I wanted to pursue that. And then along the way, like once I got in law school and I did internships, I started accumulating mentors and people to guide me along the way. So even though when I first started, I didn't know anybody, once I got into the field, like I was surrounded by lawyers. And I also have mentors like through my job as well. So the mentorship doesn't stop once you get into your career. Like it's a lifelong thing and you have to learn how to manage those relationships and maintain them. And that's something I'm still like struggling with and working on. But I would say, yeah, mentorship is definitely important, especially as Black people, because we are underrepresented in our fields and we need people on our side. And they don't always have to be Black people. They can also be other people of color that can also have your back too. So
Evita, can I ask you, how would you recommend a person seek out a mentor?
So I would say, like, if you don't already have connections, I would say social media, in this day and age, social media can be very helpful. I'm on LinkedIn and I follow a lot of lawyers and I read posts all the time from lawyers offering to mentor young law students. People post things, even like when I was looking for a job, like people post about needing job advice, job opportunities. If you're really bold, you can decide to message someone, and people are very nice and they're willing to offer their time. So I would say, like, if you have nobody like in your immediate circle that you can come to, like, personally, I would say you leverage social media now, because I think people are using, I guess, LinkedIn to really, I think it's been a very useful tool as far as like for career, at least for me personally. Like, that's how I graduated during the pandemic. So the job market was not so hot. And that's actually how I got my job at Freddie Mac. Like, I found the job posting through LinkedIn and I applied. And I was also able to connect with alumni from Cornell who offered to help me with my resume and give me feedback. And so I would say, yeah, social media is definitely a great tool to start off if you have no one else.
If I could piggyback off of that as well, when it comes to like looking for a mentor, it can be a little bit scary to like ask someone to be a mentor, right? That sounds very imposing. But if you just ask them for coffee, or if you ask them out for lunch or something of that nature, where it's an invitation to get closer to building a relationship with them, I find that they're much more receptive to that. But also social media is absolutely a perfect platform for that, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or there's even applications like Meetup, where those are networking spaces where you can actually go and meet like-minded people based on your interest or based on what your hobbies are or whatever the profession that you're interested in pursuing. Those are great avenues to meet people. And if someone that speaks at those spaces sparks your interest, just a warm invitation to something that's casual, they're very receptive to that. And then after you build a relationship, before you know it, you have a mentor.
And if I can actually piggyback off all that. Hello, my name is Sean Wallace, by the way. My mother has a saying that kind of been my mantra and what I've listened to for most of my life. I lied. I did not listen to it for most of my life. I actually just started listening to it, which was that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? And the idea is that you should try to listen more than you speak. And anybody that knows me knows that that has not been my mantra, because I like to speak. But what I've learned is that even if you don't have what society would deem as an appropriate mentor, you can learn from the people around you every day if you decide to. It's just activating those skills of taking in information and filtering what is responsible and what's reasonable for you. And not ignoring or brushing people off just because you might not understand what they're saying at first. My life has gotten a lot easier, I guess, once I started seeing everyone around me as a mentor, someone that I could learn from. In fact, I'm learning from you guys. As you guys are speaking right now, I'm like very shocked. I'm like, wow. And that's actually how I ended up with my first job after college, is just from the pure stance of listening. So don't always feel like you need this one person who's going to give you all the answers, because at the end of the day, one person doesn't have all the answers. You're gonna have to listen to everybody, you know. So.
And for the students who are listening, I also want to share with you is that our department in Transfer and Career Services, we are available to help assist you with mentoring if you need to seek out a mentor. So we are available. And Carrie, at the end of the program, she's going to share a link with you in the chat so that you know how to get in contact with our department. So does anybody want to share what was one of their favorite classes, one of their favorite professors, or an academic experience that you had while you were here at RV or at your 4-year institution? Like what would, if it's for a professor, how did that professor impact you?
Well, when I started to become a communication major, I took Big Truett. And then I had another lady named Carolyn Bosa. And I love them both for 2 reasons. I still keep in contact with them. Truett mainly because he made me love the world of communications. And that's probably why I decided to go into PR now as my specialization at Rutgers. So he just made me just so immersed into that world and just like the different aspects of it. And then as for Caroline Bosa, she made me less afraid to speak. Because as you could tell, even throughout this whole entire thing, I barely talk. I'm very shy. So even now during class presentations and then different conferences that I do go to, I'm speaking more now, speaking my mind. And a lot of people are now more like attracted to like speaking to me more and then developing connections that way. So they've both had a big influence on my life during my time at RV.
I'll go next. My favorite professor was this woman named Nicole Fahrenfeld, and I met her as she was my fluid dynamics and hydraulics professor. And she was one of a handful of female professors I had at my four-year university, in addition at Rutgers, in addition to RV. And I think it's very good for anyone within their field to see someone like them up there doing the thing that they want to be doing. And specifically to her, like she's a young woman, she has her PhD, and even just like being able to be heard in a lecture hall full of mostly men. I always thought that was really cool and aspirational. But more than that, she helped connect me to WEF Inflow, which is a Water Environment Federation. And Inflow is a program that they have for underrepresented students within the water sector. And through that, I was able to get mentorship and networking opportunity that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten. So it's definitely good to make these connections to your professors, because your professors might have connections to certain societies that you might not be aware of. And it's through that relationship and her seeing the kind of student I was that she was able to recommend me for this program that helped me gain mentorship, but also helped me get the job that I have now. So I'm forever grateful for that. And what I can say to that is, yeah, make sure you're seeking out relationships with your professors, and they can help ultimately network you in ways that you might not be aware of if you don't make those connections.
So can you share with me what resources you used while you were here on campus at RV or at your four-year institutions that helped you become successful?
I can answer this one. So I wouldn't say I necessarily use certain resources. As you can see, I have the EOF banner behind me, and just being a part of the EOF program, for you, those of you that don't know, it's the Educational Opportunity Fund, and they give funding and support for usually low-income household students, I would say. And I guess this goes back to the mentor question too. Like Danye was huge for me when I came here, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And he also was like a straight shooter. Like Danye plays no games. Like I call him my big homie now, because he's like my big homie. Like he'll beat me up. Like still, like if I do something wrong. But you also have Jen Berry on the other side of things, who was definitely like a mother figure. Who was like more like a little more gentle and would ease you through things. So the EOF program definitely was huge for me. Like they did everything for me, from registering, financial aid, even transferred to my 4-year. I transferred to Rutgers, New Brunswick, and I'm still in their EOF program. And the EOF advisor there was very helpful. Her name was Zena Jubilee. And she like took me under her wing and helped me with a lot of things. And I think they just understand some of the issues and experiences that we go through as being like somebody in a low income household. So they definitely took that in mind, and did a lot of hand holding, a lot of support, a lot of shoulders to cry on during the bad times. And that was definitely a program that did a tremendous amount for me. And I always represent them. That's why I got the banner on that. So definitely the EOF program for sure.
If I could just follow up on that, Jamal, you hit Danye on the head. He doesn't play. He keeps it straight with you, but he's the most helpful person, one of the most helpful people that I talked to at RV. When I was trying to form a club, he was the person that was helping advise me. But also when I was getting ready to transfer, just like man to man, telling me, exactly what I need to do when I get to my 4-year university, how to keep my head on straight, how to keep focused. So he was somebody that I talked to a lot. Josh Shea in first year experience, she was very helpful also. And so I was a student ambassador my last year at RV. So I was working with her a lot, and she is the exact same way. She would tell me exactly what I need to do, how to be successful moving forward. Um, Obviously, Greg DeSankis, he was awesome. Alicia, I think in Alicia Weaver, I don't remember what office she works in,
Transfer
but
career services.
yeah. So she helped me get my resume looking really good. So definitely go to her before you even think about going into internships or careers. Just go see career services. That'll help you a lot. Um, Russell and student life. Student life was a lot of fun. I think that really, um, encouraged me and galvanized me to be a part of the community as a whole. Um, Dean DeShields, I know she's not there anymore. I think she's at NYU, but she was also a big help. Um, and yeah, the list goes on. There's a lot of people who I would just go to in different services and just be a part of the community. Don't be afraid to go to these different services. They're literally getting paid to help you, so you might as well go.
And I will say for me, when I was at RV, so I was a member of the Honors College. That was like, I feel like crucial to my experience at RV because I had a cohort of peers that were all, I guess, working towards the same goals. And Greg DeSanctis, as Chad said, he was very helpful for just giving me advice. And I was just always like involved. I was involved in the choir. I was involved in the psychology club. I got to travel with the Honors College and also with the psychology club. So just take advantage of the opportunities that are available to you. You're at community college, but RV is a great place and they provide a lot of opportunities for you to get involved, for you to gain leadership experience, make the most of your time here and just appreciate it. Because when you get to your 4-year school or your career, you're going to look back and you're like, wow, that was a great time. And still to this day, even though it was like 2 years of my life, I still say it was like 2 of the best years of my life that like I will never get back.
So was diversity an important factor for you when you decided to transfer to your 4-year institutions that you transferred to? And if you were employed, was that an important factor for you when you looked for employment? Sure.
I wouldn't say per se that at first it was, but it turned into, if that makes sense. I went to Berklee College of Music, and they have a program there that allows their African American students to start college a week before everybody else. And the point is for that everybody that is African American at my school can meet each other before classes start. Because there was a really big issue about the graduation rate of African American students. And so they wanted to try to figure out the solution. So I went to the program, just thinking that, extra week of school, I'd have a room for a week with nobody else in there. That would be great. But what I really learned, I learned a lot, and it gave me a chance to really connect with a lot of the people that looked like me and came from similar backgrounds that I did. And ironically, what they said was that after this program's over, you're gonna realize that even though we had classes where it's just African American students, that when actual college started, we would only be like one African American student to a class or something like that. And so because of that experience, it really got my eyes opening to think about diversity in a new way. And then, yeah, I mean, in my work field as well, it wasn't something that was necessary. By the way, I worked at NYU as an administrator at the Tisch School of the Arts right after I graduated. And we had, I think it was like a team of maybe 5 of us. And I think I was one of the other African American person on the team. So it wasn't something that I looked into as much, but it definitely does affect like everything around you. So yeah.
I think
I
pretty
think
similar to Sean and Chad and Victoria. When it came to me getting into real estate, I actually recognize that it's a space that doesn't have a lot of diversity in it, believe it or not. And so I kind of, like, you might watch like shows like Million Dollar Listing or Selling Tampa or Selling Sunset, and there's none of that, right? And so I appreciate being a person in that space to help break down that door, right? And so that way people can look at that industry and look and see people of color that are in there. So that was kind of something, not so much that I looked for, but wanting to help break that open is something that mattered a lot to me when it came into finding that role that I was going to play in real estate.
And I'll say the same. So like when I first started, like Sean said, I wasn't like diversity wasn't a thing that I really thought about when I was like thinking about transferring. But when I got to law school, like, boy, did that change. Because when you get to law school, a lot, I mean, not every law school, but most law schools, you'll see that there's not a lot of people of color, not always a lot of Black people, depending on where you go. And my particular class, we had there was like 12 of us. And I was really involved in the Black Law Students Association. So that, I feel like that was like my family, and that's how I got through my 3 years of law school. So it definitely became more important to me, like once I got into the legal field, and not just racial diversity, but for me, disability diversity is also very important because I have a disability. So disability inclusion is something that I am very passionate about. And I've been very fortunate that in my current job, that even though I am working for this mortgage finance company, they're a great company. Everybody there is very open-minded, willing to take on new ideas and new initiatives. And I've found ways to do my advocacy on top of my regular daily work. I get to do presentations on disability inclusion, neurodiversity, and I get to do cool things that are even outside of my regular job duties. So yeah, it's definitely been a big part of my experience as far as like with my career. So yeah.
Peter, if I could just have you elaborate a little. Did you look for diversity and ask for your organization if there was any commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion? Did you look for that when you found your employer?
Yeah, so when I was interviewing for my job at Freddie Mac, I researched the company and I saw that they're on there's something called for disability purposes, there's something called the Disability Quality Index, and they're on the list of companies that are known to be disability inclusive. So that was a key for me to know that that helped me know that I was gonna go into a space that would allow me to pursue some of my interests that I had in that area. And then when I interviewed, I saw that a lot of the attorneys on the team were diverse. We actually have a lot of, our division, the legal division, does a very great job of being intentional when it comes to racial diversity. So I have had the opportunity to work under other Black women attorneys. I've worked under Hispanic attorneys, Asian attorneys, Indian attorneys. And we also have attorneys at high levels of leadership. So we have VPs that are people of color, senior VPs. One of our former executive vice presidents was Hispanic. So when I saw how diverse the hiring committee was, once I saw that on the hiring committee, then I was like, wow, like these people are serious. Like they're not just talking, like they're actually putting it into action. And I've definitely seen that during my time here. Like we have a great diversity and inclusion council that I'm a part of. There's all these like initiatives that we're doing for a variety of different things, whether it has to do with women or racial diversity or disability diversity, or we're very like open-minded and inclusive place. And we still have a lot of work to do, but I feel that the people that I work with are always willing to learn and willing to improve. And I think that's the most important thing. So.
Can I just add, I think part of what this question ties into is asking on your interview, you have to remember that you're also interviewing the company. I think that's like one of the biggest pieces of advice that you can receive about interviewing, at least for me personally. Definitely do your research, but also make sure you're asking the questions of their commitment to diversity if that's something that's important to you. The question I specifically asked during my interview was like, what's the general demographic breakdown of the people in the company? And that could mean like age or race or gender, whatever, or disability, whatever that means to you. But it's definitely good to know that. I think in different points of my life, along with imposter syndrome, you can sometimes feel tokenized in certain spaces. So I definitely wanted to have a sense that you don't want me here just for like status quo or to fit a number, but that I'm feeling that I'm a part of a system that's already been created and intentionally created, like Avita was saying. So definitely ask those questions as well during your interviews for whatever company or if it's school, whatever it may be.
What was your first, so this is a two-part question. What was your first job after graduation? And what resources did you use to find it and then prepare for your interview? David, you wanna-
Yeah, no, sorry, my um so I was actually working like right as I had gotten to Raritan, I had already been working in retail at Apple for a little while. And so I did that all while I was going to Raritan. And then when I transferred over to Pace, I was fortunate enough that they obviously have multiple Apple stores right throughout the country. And so in New York, I transferred over to the Apple store there. And it was during my time there that once I finished school, I was still working there full time now, just trying to figure out things. And that was a lot of where I was meeting a lot of interesting people, right? And so I ended up getting approached by multiple people that were curious about what I do outside of Apple, and if I'd be interested in trying other things. And so that was when I was approached by a real estate agent. He was like, "Have you ever thought about doing this on a larger scale, right? Selling on a larger capacity into a larger demographic?" And so I was like, "Sure." Never really thought about anything like that, and I asked him if I could have his contact, and we exchanged numbers. And again, that warm invitation to have a coffee, right? So that way I could find a little bit more about that job. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? Because essentially you're becoming your own business owner, you're becoming an entrepreneur in that respect. And so there's so many different nuances to learn in that. But I think for me, being able to juggle school, work, and student government while I was in Raritan was able to give me sort of a lens as to how to be able to do something like that. So the tools that I was given while I was there in student government in particular, managing a team and partnering with different clubs and organizations, partnering with different students to be able to collaborate and come up with different things for the community to do, are all things that I was using in real estate, which I never thought I'd be doing, whether that's marketing, whether that's building relationships out of nowhere with new people, or whether that's working in a team collaboratively to come and execute on something. Those are all tangible tools that I was able to use while I was at Raritan that I'm using every day now.
I'll repeat it again since it was a two-part question. What was your first job after graduation? What resources did you use to find it? And then how did you prepare for your interview?
I guess go
No,
John.
no, you got it.
You got
All
it.
right, all right. So, so my first job out of graduation, after I graduated from UNC, I went into consulting at Infosys Limited. I'm sorry. And essentially, I found that kind of just by looking through different job postings, LinkedIn, Handshake, using. They had a system that was within the UNC system where you could kind of just look for entry level positions. And really, to prepare for that interview, I don't really think I prepared for that interview. But that was like, but it wasn't really a job that I felt fit me. So that's why I went back to school. And I think, the interview process that I just went through will be a little bit more helpful for a lot of you students. So I will be working at Data IQ, which is a data science software company, this summer as a data solutions engineer. And those interviews I had to prepare a lot for. So in terms of the resources when it comes to interview prep, first of all, research the company as much as you can. Understand their values, understand their mission statement. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but understanding their stance on diversity, inclusion, and equity, super important. Especially if it's important to you, then it has to be important to the company, or else that might not be the company for you. Interview the person that's interviewing you. Make sure you know everything there is to know about them before you even step foot in the room with them. If they send you their email beforehand, search them up on LinkedIn, know about them beforehand. And then I would also say just come prepared. So like for me, I'm going through data science interviews, so I know they're going to be asking me about statistics and probability and modeling. So that's information that I need to know. For some of you that might be doing like communications or marketing or something like that, then just know your field well enough to talk about it, and that you could just show your expertise. And then lastly, just have fun. Like you're going through the preparation, the interview is fun. The interview should be, look, I know my stuff. You guys can either hire me or you won't. And sometimes companies won't hire you, even though you gave a great interview. But sometimes it's about fit. Maybe they just saw you and they were like, maybe this person isn't for our organization, but you're a great fit for another organization that's even better than the one that you just applied to. So always keep that in mind. Those things were swirling through my head constantly through this interview process. So I definitely keep those things in mind when you guys go through that.
And I'll just piggyback off of what Chad is saying. So the job that I'm in currently is actually my first job out of law school. And prior to that, I did mostly like internships and volunteer experiences. So this is actually my first real job with like benefits and everything. So it's been kind of a whirlwind, but I would say what I did and my whole journey, like my career trajectory has been completely untraditional. Like I'm kind of like been an exception in a lot of ways to a lot of like traditional advice. But so when I applied to Freddie Mac, I really didn't know much about the company. Like if I'm being really honest, like I had never even heard about the company. All I knew was that it seemed like a great opportunity. And I knew that I wanted to work for a company straight out of law school. And that's a very untraditional thing to do, because most companies want you to have like at least maybe 10 plus years of experience working at a law firm. And law firms are really hard places to work. You work crazy hours, you make a lot of money, but the lifestyle, there's not a lot of work-life balance. And I knew I didn't want that. And I just knew that I wanted to work for a company and have more of like a 9-to-5 schedule. And it just seemed, even though I didn't know much about the company or about who they were, it seemed like a great opportunity. But then once I decided I was going to apply, I did the research like Chad was saying, and I tried to looked at their website and tried to like research as much as I could about the company. And then what I did was I looked at my resume and tried to figure out how I matched with the company. So I saw that I had worked at 2 prior companies before. So I had experience working for companies. So that was something that I highlighted. I'm very passionate about diversity. I was involved in the Black Law Students Association with disability advocacy stuff in law school. And I knew that was something that was important to them. So then I highlighted that. They're also they also have a great pro bono program, which is like free legal services for low-income individuals. And I had did some legal aid work while I was in law school, helping disadvantaged populations. So I highlighted that. So I just tried to look at my resume and look at what I knew about the company and see how I could match the two. And then the more matches that I was able to find, the more I was able to feel comfortable about my qualification with the company. And that was how I was able to sell myself to them. And and I was just myself. And like Chad said, I was just like, this is who I am. I'm not gonna hide. I'm not gonna apologize for the things that I'm passionate about. You can either take it or you can leave it. And they took it. So that would be my advice.
Sean, did you want to say something?
If I could, if that's all right. I just so I want to be transparent here. I think that every job that I've ever received was because I knew somebody, and I think that that's a very important aspect that not a lot of people talk about, because it is good to, again, be qualified. It is good to and all that stuff, but sometimes the last two candidates may come down to who knows somebody, and and sorry, what was it? And actually, right after college, I worked as a waiter. I actually always wanted to be a waiter, and so I figured that this would be a great time to do that. So I don't want to lie and say that NYU was my first occupation after college. But then after I worked for a while, I found myself volunteering a lot. And so I actually got a chance to volunteer at my father's church. And there was this man there who, like, we really talked and had a genuine conversation, had a genuine interest in each other. It finds out that that guy worked at NYU. And so what I say is that networking is tricky, right? Because you don't always want to walk into a situation with somebody and say, hey, I need something from you. You want to sit there and you want to make genuine relationships with people. And I find that the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make is that they come out very insincere with their approaches. And they like, hey, I just want to network with you. I want something from you and that's all I want. But people are going to remember those that put an effort to remember small things about them, or actually has a friendship with people, right? Actually, while I was in college, a lot of the professors that said that there are a lot of people that are qualified to do a lot of jobs that we're working for, right? And at the end of the day, excuse my French, but like they said that they would rather work with somebody that they know than like an asshole every day. And so, you know, my biggest advice for you when looking into jobs and stuff like that is to make genuine relationships at first in your field. Make friends and network in a genuine way. And if you could do that, then you will always be set, you know. And that's actually, yeah, that's exactly how I got my first job at NYU, because he said, hey, like this guy is very intelligent, he knows what he does. And they said, okay, you know, we'll see what he got. And so that is how that happened. So never be afraid to volunteer either. You know, work for free a little bit. I know a lot of people are afraid of that and don't allow people to abuse your free work. But you know, if you're really genuine about the things that you want to do, then you should always have a chance or some time to just give some extra aid or extra help to anybody. So yeah, that's my advice. That's it.
So,
Also, if you're like afraid of like interviews, or if interviews are just like very, you know, scary in general, I think mock interviews can be really, really helpful. So whether that be a friend or just someone you trust, an advisor or a professor, do that research, have that list of questions, then have them kind of just go through that with you and just see how you do in that candid environment. And you'll find that it's not so bad. So I think mock interviews are really, really helpful. I love those.
and that's a service that's actually offered through Career Services. Alicia and I both work to help students if you need to practice interviewing skills. Alicia, who is a coordinator for internships and co-ops, she works from that perspective. And for students who are looking for full and part-time positions, those students as well as alumni, I'm available to help students to prepare for interviews. So that is a service that is offered through our department. So I have a question for you. Well, I wanted to let you know, in addition to students who have not graduated, have you had any internship experiences that you thought had an impact on you when you know, while you're going through your graduation process before you graduate? Let me rephrase that. What type of internship experiences have you had if you have not graduated yet from college? If you're still in school, have you had any internship experiences?
My first internship experience was at Alpha Art Galleries there on 108 Church Street here in New Brunswick. My role was social media / PR intern, and basically it was just me creating audience engagement and reaching out to local media, also keeping relationships with them as well as local businesses, because we did, in addition to recruiting artists and advertising our shows, we also rented out the space. So keeping those great relationships with local businesses, they could come and they have their events with us and we help promote them, and as well in return of them promoting us. So that was really great. But it was fun for the most part. I worked with a diverse group of people who are still now in my life and are friends and great network connections. And what I liked about the whole position was my boss allowed me the freedom to be as creative as I wanted to be, which, some places you go to, they kind of have a structure of how they want you to work and how they want you to do things. She just allowed me to be myself, and I found myself growing, developing new skills, learning different things. It was, for my first internship, it was really fun for me.
So I'm going to end with this last question, because I want to give students the opportunity to ask questions to all of the panelists. What was one of the biggest challenges that you faced in your academic or career journey? For example, have any of you experienced discrimination in your academic institution or on your career path?
So I guess this ties back into like the last two questions. So what Jacinda had mentioned before about internships, I didn't have an internship when I was leaving Rutgers. And that's like one thing I like regret, was not getting an internship, especially for the human resources degree I ended up getting, because that definitely would have helped me potentially land a job in that field. I'm happy where I am now and what I ended up becoming, but internships definitely help with networking and landing a job. And the previous question before that, we talked about our first jobs after graduating college. And one of my first jobs is actually working for ADP, which is like a payroll company. And I didn't research the company really. I actually ran into one of my old high school classmates at the gym one day, and we were talking, and she was like, "Oh, I work for ADP. Like, I know you have a human resource background. This might be something you're interested in. You're interested in. So send me your resume, and I'll forward it along." So she did that. Had the interview, did well. At the time, the title for the position was a small business consultant. That's what it said. So, I didn't really know what that meant, but it pretty much was sales, like cold calling, like sales. So like you're on the ground, they give you a territory, you're out there trying to sell payroll to companies, pretty much, to small businesses. And so I hated the job. I'll start off by saying that I hated it. I'm very open, I'm very honest. So like if you say like, y'all, I don't want payroll, I'm like, cool, like that's fine. On to the next person. Like I'm not gonna keep trying to sell you something. I'll show you the benefits, I'll show you the plus and everything like that, but I'm not gonna keep it going. I don't wanna take up your time and I don't wanna take up my time, because my time is valuable as well. But what was the last straw actually was I went to a restaurant and I was in Cranberry, Princeton Junction was my area. And I was doing pretty well as far as sales. I made a lot of good connections. I got a lot of people signed up. I was making good money. They had a base salary and plus commission. But I did go to speak to this one gentleman one time. I walked into a business. It was like a diner or a restaurant. And we would get a list of people who used ADP in the past, and then they decided to change it for whatever reason, was taxes or whatever happened. So we would always try to go back for those people. Those are hot leads to get these people back to sign up. So I would go to meet with the guy. I was actually out with my team leader at the time. I was with him that day because he goes to scout and stuff some days with us. So I go to the meeting, meet with the gentleman, and long story short, he's like, at one point in the meeting, he was like, yeah, I'm tired of like doing stuff for Black people. And I was like, yeah, excuse my French, but I was like, F, like, I didn't want to say, what was it, F this? Like, I was like, I'm over this. So like, I remember leaving, and then like my manager was like, oh, like, I'm proud of you for not like jumping out your chair and like this and this and that. And I remember like that ride, we were leaving, I was like, yo, I'm done. I don't want to do this job anymore. Like, you know, it just kind of like, I don't know, it like was a Debbie Downer. I didn't like the job to begin with, but that was kind of like the last straw. So that was like the first time that I experienced like discrimination in the workplace. My boss did like try to have my back and stuff like that, but it was just like, that was the last straw. And I guess another thing, like being an employee here, I guess like I look relatively young. I like to say Black don't crack. So I do get like students who think I'm I think students who think I'm a student still, or they'll be like, hey, like, can you help me? I'm like, oh, I work here. Like, yeah, I can help you. But they think I'm a student. Some people will mistake me for Jason Fredericks, Jeff, because we're Black men. So they think I'm, you know, this person, but I'm not. So that happens, you know, but that's just them not being conscious enough and things like that. So, but, you know, it's pretty.
Has anybody else had any experiences where you were a challenge or a hurdle that you had to overcome on your career or your education journey? And with that, did you realize what you didn't want to do, what has been shared with us? For some people, because of those challenges and those experiences that you might have had, you may have said to yourself, like what Jamal said, this is it. I don't want to do this anymore. So have you had that type of experience? And again, during your educational journey or in your career path?
I think for me personally, one of the things with my specific work, I end up working in a lot of different teams, and you end up with a lot of different dynamics and perspectives and characters of people. And oftentimes people do size you up and they make assessments on your capabilities or what they think you can and can't do. And you can prove them wrong and let the work show for itself. But some of the challenges that I had to overcome, specifically with a coworker, was just their initial assessment of me of just being like, oh, I do modeling, and me showing excitement, like, oh, I want to learn modeling. It's like, oh, it's a bit hard. And I'm like, the point of what I'm trying to get at is a lot of what I do, like they realize that you're a junior engineer, specifically in my field, they realize that you're a junior engineer, and there's a level of training that goes into each project that I do. And it might be the case for whatever fields you find yourself in. And it takes a level of patience from the people you're working with. And I've been on certain teams where they show you like, this is the job, this is what's required. But there will be certain people that might be dismissive or might size you up and just make assumptions. So I wouldn't outright say that it was like, oh, this person discriminating, but it is someone sizing you up and making assumptions that might not be true. And those were, for me personally, experiencing imposter syndrome and already struggling to ask people for questions. Like that's something that I've had to learn how to ask for help. And that's something that's encouraged as a junior engineer, that I didn't feel like I could confidently ask. So yeah, I guess, I don't know if I put that together, but yeah, speak up, ask for questions, ask for help.
I know one of my biggest challenges was learning how to schedule and keeping your work-life balance. I was thrown into the wolves working at NYU. I've never had a job where I was not supervised in some way or form. And this is the job where I was kind of really, as an administrator, I was making decisions for a lot of students and making decisions for a lot of staff members and figuring out things that way. It was a giant learning curve. because you have to be reliable on yourself. Nobody checked in to see if I took a lunch. Nobody even checks in to see if you leave early or if you come in late, or you know how the academics are. And then so and so they just expect things to be done. And there are many different distractions. I would say there'd be a lot of people that says, "Hey, Sean, come out to lunch with us, come do this and that," and you can't always listen to everybody. My biggest thing is to find a rhythm. Consistency is key. Make a schedule for your week, for your day. I mean, they gave us even chances. They said, "When do you want to work from home? When do you want to come in?" And I knew as someone that hated waking up in the morning to go on the train. I would have to take the train into the city, into my office. I had to learn how to manage that type of schedule. You know what I mean? So I figured, we're gonna have Monday meetings. So I'd come to the office on Monday, Tuesday. I decided that I would stay home because I'd be tired from Monday. You know what I mean? And so like just learning who you are, being honest with yourself, and then making those adjustments. And I'm gonna tell you guys, Google Calendar has saved my life. Google Calendar has saved my life. Overscheduling is not a thing because things will change anyway. So always write stuff down, always put things in. And then what you're gonna learn is you're gonna have a lot more free time. You're gonna have a lot more time for yourself if you schedule things. So schedule. That's it.
Thank you.
I'll just quickly say that for me, like imposter syndrome is real big right now because like I'm only a year and a couple months out of law school, and law school doesn't really teach you how to be a lawyer. So I'm learning how to be a lawyer right now. So there's a huge learning curve that I have to overcome. And like right now, I'm actually in a rotational program. So I change departments like every 3 to 4 months, and I'm thrown into a new team, have to learn completely different subject matter, completely different work styles and personalities. So it's been a huge adjustment for me, and I'm learning what like I like and I don't like, but I'm also growing a lot personally. And I would say because I took an untraditional route, like I didn't work at a law firm right away, and I am working at a place where a lot of the people are older than me. I do experience that imposter syndrome. And there's also, I would say that the disadvantage of starting at a company right away is that a lot of my attorneys that I work under, they're not used to having to train young lawyers. So I'm finding myself responsible for my development and training a lot of the times. Like I really have to speak up and advocate myself. I have to be the one to say, can we go over this? Can you explain this to me? Can we set up a meeting? Like this job has really pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I've gotten more comfortable with speaking to people that are older than me, senior leaders, people that are VPs. I've even done presentations for the whole entire division, like something with hundreds of people, like something I never thought I'd ever do. So like, I feel like this job is really pushing me like personally and professionally. And the imposter syndrome, it's always gonna be there. I feel like I don't think anybody's ever going to look at me like walking down the street and be like, oh, she's a lawyer. But you got to know who you are, and you don't have to legitimize yourself to anybody. Like you know what you went. We all went to school. Like we've all put in the work, and we know who we are. So we just have to remember that when we go into the world and we go into our respective fields.
That's great advice. Great advice.
I actually want to add on to that about imposter syndrome. I think, and Miss Alicia Walker, who actually works in the student life office, she told this to me when I was filling out my resume, adding when I worked with them as an office/media assistant. She's like, Jacinda, you're selling yourself short. Like you've done a lot for us in this office. You have done a lot of things as far as, day-to-day work. And then when we offered for you to join in different projects, you were right on it and did everything you had to do. Add that into your resume, all your accomplishments and the things that you have done there. Even at the internship that I've had previously, I just wrote down my responsibilities throughout the day. I didn't even take into account oh yeah, when I, how I upped up their engagement through their social media channels. Even when they had YouTube at the time, they didn't have any subscribers. As soon as I started promoting it and, being very interactive with their followers, they went from 0 to 25 subscribers within a week. So I added stuff like that. And so never think, oh, I don't do a lot. You've probably done a lot of things. Take that into account. A lot of jobs, they look at that as well. And another thing I wanted to mention about resumes, I think Avita mentioned, when you're comparing what they're looking for in a candidate and what you have on your resume, they use a system. Sometimes they do it manually. They look at keywords. So if there's something that you have done, but the keyword is just different from what you have in your resume, add that there, fix it up, spruce it up, because then it will most likely, they'll look at your resume and they want to have an interview with you. So yeah.
And just be like, I would just say back to what Avita was saying, like, just be like proud of yourself. Like she said, she was in there, doing presentations to 100 people, but like, show that, like, have your chest, out and stuff like that. Stand there, speak proudly. You as students and everybody else on this panel, like, we've overcome a lot. Like, we're already behind the 8 ball as people try to put us behind the 8 ball as African Americans already. So to overcome everything you've already overcome, go to college, graduate college, get a job, like, wear that on your shoulder. Like, let people know, like, yo, I overcame all of this, and like, I'm not gonna let you stop my shine. Like, I'm gonna do what I need to do to better my family, better my people, and everything like that. So like, I firmly believe that every time I step in the front in my office, like, I'm here to assist you. You know what I mean? And I'm proud. You may look at me as whatever you may think. And this kid is this and this and that, but at the end of the day, like, I know what I overcame, and you still need me anyway at the end of the day. So just make sure you guys keep that in mind when you guys are going through everything. Just make sure you wear that on your chest and just be proud of yourselves, because it's a journey. It's definitely a journey, but you overcome it, and it's great. It's a great feeling. Honestly, it's a great feeling.
Jamal, you're really an ally on campus. I think it's helpful for students to know that there's people on campus that are looking out for them. And you're one of those people. Career Services is also one of those people. And we've heard, Greg DeSanctis, we've heard Danye and Jen and EOF, we've heard Student Life. I know I'm probably missing somebody, but there's a lot of people that are on campus that are out rooting for your success. And to help you get prepared and just feel more confident and more connected to be a part of the community on campus. We are almost out of time, which is hard to believe. So I wanted to make sure that anybody who is on the call can ask questions directly, so that we have a little bit of time for that. You can either put it in the chat, or you can just use the raise hand feature, or just at this point just unmute and ask a question of any of our panelists or all of our panelists. People still thinking? I don't see anything in the chat just yet.
Hey man, we don't bite. Just so
I
y'all know.
That's right. If we learned anything from you guys, you don't bite.
Okay, I will go. I have a question. When you guys transferred to your 4-year colleges, were there like programs to help transfer students better integrate into the school community and environment?
So I'll start. Oh.
No, go ahead, Avi.
Okay, so I went to Rutgers, New Brunswick, and we had like a whole, I guess, course. They have advisors dedicated to transfer students specifically, and we had to take a whole course like as transfer students about like the transfer experience or whatever. So they're definitely, at least at Rutgers, they were definitely mindful of that, and you are going to get that support that you need as far as that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for my school, I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and they had a organization called Transfers United. So basically everybody that transferred from whether it was a community college or another 4-year school, they would put all of us into one residence hall, and we would live together. in the suites and the dorms. And honestly, I made some of the best friends there. Those are still a lot of my best friends to this day. So, you know, you're going through the transfer process with them. And you also had to take like a transfer integration course. And the woman that taught that course, she was, you know, one of the best people that I met in my first semester there. And she really helped me get acclimated. And she also helped me in my post-graduation stuff. So that's where that networking that Sean talked about came in. So yeah, they have it at a lot of four-year schools. Definitely look out for any transfer resources.
Okay, thank you for answering my question.
Any other questions?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't really have a question. I just wanted to thank you guys for having to come in and sharing your time. I know time is really valuable, especially right now. So I just wanted to thank you guys for stopping in and talking to us. We appreciate it. And hi, Jamal.
Thank you so much, Samara. I'm going to ask our panelists to put their information in the chat if they're willing to, so that if there's anybody that is on the panel today that you want to follow up with, you want to ask a question of, that you either just couldn't think of today or it just comes to you at 2 in the morning, that you can reach out to them if that's okay. And then you can just follow up with them on email. You can connect with them on LinkedIn, possibly. The Career Services Office helps RVCC students with developing a LinkedIn profile as a student, and then you can start to connect with graduates that way. And we also teach you how to do that when you come into the office and connect with graduates and how to search them on LinkedIn as well. I just want to ask if anybody has any final questions, or if the panelists have any final tips, words of wisdom. You've been really, really great, and I do appreciate your time.
I would just say that don't think that once college ends, like your learning ends there. Life is, it's a lot of learning. And also just one of the questions we didn't touch on with extracurricular activities, challenge yourself to be in some sort of leadership position. I think it definitely helps you integrate better into the workforce when you have a better rhythm around communication and just learning how to communicate with different types of people. It definitely helps once you are actually working and having that experience, even just through activities, clubs, and yeah, especially e-boards and anything along those lines definitely helps. And continue reading and learning, and it's a good time.
In fact, to piggyback off of that, I actually started learning the most right after college, which a lot of people said is what's going to happen. I feel like being in school for so long, without a break, which I should have took a gap year or something, but like without a break, it kind of gave me this overload. And so for a while, I felt burdened to learn because it was just so repetitive. But then as soon as it stopped, I started to like really start gravitating towards things of interest, and then started reading books about them, like we were talking about. So don't be afraid of that. Like whatever that calling is that might be calling to you, read about it. You know what I mean? Take a class. You know what I mean? There's so many classes. I feel like so many people believe that they don't that they only belong to one career only. I had a beautiful conversation with Greg not too long ago about how people change their careers, I think statistically now, about like 4 or 5 times in their lifetime. So be open and allow those experiences to help other experiences, right? Even for instance, when I was a waiter, for instance, I was able to use some of those skills, those interpersonal skills, those listening skills, those memorizing skills into my next career that then helped me. Always be open to listen, and always be open to learn, and your life will be great. Yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
I would say going back to Sean had mentioned this earlier when he had met his colleague at NYU when he was working at the church. Just like, I mean, just be like genuine, just be like kind, genuine, like warm-hearted, like that goes a long way. Like some people, they're going through things in life and they're having a bad day and they may just like lash out at you sometimes. And then you may do that too. Like it happens. Like it's a part of life. Like things happen, bad things happen. But just try to always look at things on the positive end. Be kind, be genuine. Write out, I forgot what they're called. One of my classmates at Rutgers would always tell me, I think they did it on Oprah, but they would write out like all their goals and stuff and for every new year, things like that. Write it out, envision it, and keep telling yourself like it's going to happen. And it'll happen. It'll happen. A good thing. I'm a firm believer that good things happen to good people. And if you think that way, you're just kind and you put your goals out there, like it'll happen. So.
Also, don't forget where you came from. I'm so proud to have gone to Raritan. I'm so proud to have gone to Pace University. So don't forget the communities that you came from, the communities that supported you, the communities that lifted you up, and make sure that opportunities like this, you come back and you remind them and you give that back to other people that were so kind to you before. So just don't forget where you came from. I think that's huge.
One last thing I want to add, breathe. Okay, it's not a race. I know sometimes you may have parents and family members saying, well, what are you going to do? And what are you going to do with this degree? And what are you doing right now? Just breathe, relax. You'll figure out what you want to do when you eventually, and if you know what you want to do, don't worry, you'll get there. Just because it wasn't meant for you now doesn't mean it won't be meant for you later. It's okay.
And I just wanted to say that like what you're doing now definitely matters. Like a lot of the experiences that I had in college, I'm using it now in my job, and people are actually looking to me as a leader when I just got here, like, because I put in the work when I was in school to be an expert in in things that I'm doing now. So everything that you're doing now matters, and just enjoy the ride.
I started getting into reading a lot of autobiographies. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X not too long ago, and I just started going from there. And what I learned is that that life isn't just a one straight shot to whatever it is that you go to. There's a lot of turns and twists, and you never know what's gonna happen. So always be open for life, and always be open to live life. Don't always feel upset or burdened that you're not where you're supposed to be, or when you think you are supposed to be. You know what I mean? I think it's a very good thing for everybody to read autobiographies when they're younger, because not to try to emulate what they've done, but to realize that everybody's life and everyone's path is so unique that you can never try to copy somebody else's, and always try to be authentically yourself,
And if I may, just my last point is kind of jumping off David's point, is for me, RV was the best decision I ever made. Like I continue to say that. So for y'all that are still there right now, just remember that. Remember that you've made great decisions in your life, so that when you move forward and you may run into that imposter syndrome, or you may not feel the most confident in yourself, sometimes it's important to look back at decisions and things that you've already done and decisions that you've made and be like, wait, I did a good job with that, so I can do a good job moving forward. Just remember that.
So on behalf of the Transfer and Career Services Department and the Black Student Association, I would like to thank all of our panelists for coming back and giving back to our students here at RVCC. We appreciated all of the knowledge that you shared today. It was very, I learned from you, and I'm older than most of you. So the point is that this was very informative, and we hope to continue series like this so that students are aware that they do have help. There are mentors that are here that can help them, and that we are great people. So no matter what people may say, Black and African American people are great, and we have achieved greatness, and I hope that we will all continue to do the same, okay? So thank you everyone for participating, for our panelists, and thank you to all of the students who came to absorb the knowledge that was shared with you today.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you for having us.
You,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Bye.
Thank you.
luck.